Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw. This time it is going to be on Orphan, First Kill. This is a prequel to the 2009 film Orphan, and in this film we follow Esther as how she got the name Esther, as that's not her real name. It's Lena, I believe. It's been a while since I watched the first movie, but I do remember enough of it to give you like full details and flashbacks of the original film. In this film, we follow Esther as she escapes this hospital or whatever because she's locked up because she's a complete psycho. But she decides to impersonate a missing daughter who is also named Esther and sort of looks like her. So she goes back to the family that was missing Esther, and throughout the film, she goes like incognito, and the family starts getting suspicious of her, at least the mother and brother, because they have much bigger parts than the father do. Now, I really enjoyed the first Orphan. I thought this was a really underrated psychological thriller. This played out more like a psychological thriller than this film, because this film is more of a slasher. I mean, this film technically is a slasher too, but it doesn't really get into the whole slasher stuff until like the very end of the movie. There is going to be some spoilers to this film. I'm not going to spoil anything through this film though. So yeah, major plot details to the first film. If you haven't seen the first movie, I recommend like skipping to, I don't know, I'm going to be talking about it a lot. But, yeah, if you're unaware about the first film, or if you've seen the first film, you know exactly what I'm going to talk about. There was a major plot twist in that movie where Esther may seem like she's a little girl. Well, guess what? She isn't a little girl. She's actually a woman in her 30s. When she turned 10, she's had the same look ever since she was 10. So if you've seen the first movie, you know exactly how the movie's going to play out. She's not a real girl. She's a woman. And so yeah, that kind of ruined this movie a bit for me, because since you knew that Esther was a woman this whole time and not really a girl, you kind of knew where the movie was going. Like, she's going to do something bad to the family, and she does. Actually, halfway through the movie, no spoilers, but something happens that kind of makes this movie sort of like a game of cat and mouse between the mother and the daughter. And it completely changes genres a little bit. Not really, as the movie kind of loses its suspense a little bit when, you know, I didn't really care much for this family as I did the family in the first movie, because I actually did care about the family a bit in the first movie. Because there was a younger daughter, and Vera Farmiga I thought was great in that movie. Julia Stiles I also thought was good too. Isabel Fuhrman is also great as Esther once again. It's just that there's a really big reason why Esther, the real Esther, was missing. And I'm not going to spoil, but the way it happens, I actually made me hate the family in this movie, and I actually wanted Esther to kill them all. Except for the dad. The dad wasn't really much of a... He seemed like a nice guy, but the mother and brother, no, not so much, because it's surprisingly, it's really hard for me not to spoil here, because if I explain it to you, then I'm just gonna go into spoiler territory, where I kind of want to, but kind of don't, because not really people are watching this movie right now. The movie is playing in select theaters, though it's not, I haven't heard that many people talk about it. It's also streaming on Paramount Plus, so if you don't want to, you know, risk the trip, then you don't have to. It's streaming on Paramount Plus, though not everybody has Paramount Plus. But, hey, it may seem I'm being a bit negative to the movie, but I actually did like this movie. I thought in terms of a prequel, it was a solid enough prequel. In fact, I can say it's one of the best horror movie prequels out there. As like I mentioned before, it has really strong performances, though there are times where the movie does have a bit of similarities to the first movie. Esther has a crush on her fake father in this movie, just like she did in the first movie, so there are times where it kind of had similarities to the first movie, though it does change genres a little bit, and the movie doesn't drag on too much. And when it does come to Esther killing people, it is pretty damn entertaining, and if that's all that you really came to see, then you're gonna get that, as it's way more violent than the first movie was. Like I mentioned before, the first movie was more psychological, as you never knew that Esther was actually a woman looking like a child throughout the rest of her life. While this movie, you knew that she was, though there is another twist. And like I mentioned before, it's that twist involving the family of what actually happened to the real Esther. So I think the movie does a good job of how Lena got the name of Esther and how she played as Esther throughout the 2 years of this journey she's been through, because the movie takes place in 2007, and she doesn't meet the main family, the family in the first movie, till like 2 years later. And I think the movie really does do a good job of that. As you're the only one to root for is Esther. She is the protagonist of this one, and you know that she's going to get out, because this is a prequel, and Esther is alive in the first movie. Spoiler alert, she does die at the end of the first movie. But yeah. But in the end, guys, I did have a pretty solid time with this movie. It's definitely not as good as the first movie, in my opinion. There are some people that might actually like this movie a bit more if you're more into the slasher vibe and you just want to see a psychotic girl kill people. Then I think you're gonna enjoy this one. But as for me, I enjoyed it, though it's definitely not going to please everyone. If you're not a fan of the first movie, then you're probably not going to be a fan of this one. But as for me, I had a solid enough time. It's not as memorable as the first movie, as I do kind of find some elements to be a bit predictable, and I kind of knew where they were going. But there was a lot of stuff in the first movie that I was not expecting in the slightest. So yeah, not quite as good as the first movie for me, but still had a pleasant enough time. I recommend giving it a watch. It's on Paramount Plus. It was actually really hard for me to see this in the theater, because it's not playing in that many theaters near me. So yeah, it's kind of odd, but I still got to see it. So yeah, I could have watched it on Paramount Plus, but I would have liked the experience a lot more since it was playing in the theaters. Then whatever, I saw it in the theater. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.